So, Joel, obviously, you were really had high expectations for Michigan going into the year last year.
Yeah.
Obviously, things did not go quite the way that, Michigan fans would have hoped.
Sure.
What, in your eyes, what kind of was the crux of what didn't work for Michigan?
Yeah. Well, they didn't get very consistent quarterback play. If they would have gotten it, they would have had a great season. And the margin, unfortunately for them, the margin in this conference and more specifically in their division is razor thin. So your quarterback doesn't play to his ability or you get an injury at that position, that's tough. And that was certainly the case with Michigan. Their defense was up to par. Their run game was up to par. Even their young wide receiver core developed a little bit. I think this year I'm maybe even more bullish on Michigan than I was a year ago. That's going to be a great defense. They have all the makings to have a top 2-3 defense in the entire country. Their run game should be very consistent. Their passing game should be better. I think Shea Patterson is an upgrade. He's the most talented quarterback that Jim Harbaugh has had since Andrew Luck at the college level. And if he plays to his potential, Michigan's going to be tough to beat, very tough to beat. Now, whether they win the games or not, again, timing, injuries, what's happening, crucial play here and there. But they've been high quality. Even last year, I know some people have grown stale. But you look at last year, they were 2, 3, 4 snaps of the football away from being 10, 11 wins in the regular season. They're in every game, and if they can get some more consistent QB play, they're going to be right there.
You mentioned the young receivers, and having been a quarterback yourself, what kind of a challenge is it as a quarterback to kind of get in the same page with a young receiving quarterback?
Yeah, I think it depends on the system, candidly. If your team runs a system that is very detail-oriented, it can take a while. Just because those details are so specific and they're so crucial that everyone has to get them, they have to learn them, and then they have to learn the timing as such. And that West Coast system is that way. There's not a lot of freewheeling that happens where you can just go out and kind of pitch and catch, right? It's a very specific system. I was raised in it. This is what I played. So it was difficult to get younger players to understand the timing, the details, and the specific nature of the spacing in particular. So it's tough. Now, that being said, after a year on the football field, understanding game speed, now the question is, can Shea acclimate himself quickly to go out there and play at that speed with that level of detail? I think he can. I think he's really talented, like I said. That's why I'm bullish on Michigan. I think Jim Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in college football. He's proven that out, and there's no reason to believe why they won't be right there, not only in the East Division, but potentially for the conference championship and potentially a playoff spot.
Now, what kind of quarterback exactly is Shea Patterson? I think he gets kind of unfairly viewed as, we hear about Michigan going to do the run-pass option with him, but he gets kind of unfairly viewed as like a true dual threat, and he's not that.
He's much more skilled as a passer than that. He can stand in there and pass the football. Is he athletic enough to hurt a defense with his feet? Yes. Does that make him a true dual threat player? Probably not, right? That offense, I don't think, is ever going to be bread and butter quarterback run. Was Andrew mobile enough to hurt people with his feet? Yeah. Does that make him a dual threat quarterback? Not necessarily. Speaking of Andrew Luck and the very similar offense, what will help Shea is that he's got a lot of great quarterback minds around him. Jim Harbaugh, namely, Pep Hamilton, Jim McElwain, all of these guys, they've had the ability to get quality quarterback play. So, again, I know it sounds like I'm talking myself into it. They're going to be a very good team, and I think Shea's going to have a really good year.
You mentioned the additions of, Michigan brought in Jim McElwain, and, they still had Pep Hamilton, got Ed Warner and Sharon Moore joining the fold. What do you know about, as far as, when you look at those coaches that they brought in, how much does that change what Michigan's maybe trying to do, and how much better do they get bringing in former head coach in McElwain and a guy who, in Ed Warner, who used to coordinate Ohio State's offense?
It's a good question. I mean, would you rather have 8 great minds or 2? 8. Would you rather have 10 great minds or 5? 10. the more quality football people you can bring into your staff, the better. Jim McElwain has proven that he understands offensive football and he can get the best out of a quarterback. I thought he did that at Florida. He won 2 division championships at Florida. I know he gets knocked a little bit, but he did that. He built Colorado State back up into a place where they won 10 games and he had a really quality quarterback. Good football coach. Ed knows what he's doing. I mean, he's been at the top levels in this conference and won. So he understands what it takes. Pep understands what it takes, and specifically to work with Jim and do that. All of that is positive. There's no doubt about it. How it affects them on the field, I'm not sure. I think that remains to be seen. But what, at least to me, is that when you have that many teachers, what you generally see is a higher level of execution. Guys that understand how to teach the game, you see that in the level of execution. And I think if that pans out, that they're going to be really good.
Now, when the stat that's parroted about quite a bit since Harbaugh's arrived through 3 years is 1-5 against the 2 rivals. How concerning is that for you when you look at it as an analyst? And what do you say to someone who just essentially looks at the numbers alone? And
he's a bad spot away from being 2-4 with a win over Ohio State and a berth in the Big Ten championship game, potentially the playoff, and it's a moot point. A bad spot. That's changing nothing else other than a poor spot from the official. So to me, it's a narrative that doesn't need to be there. Would he like to win those games? Sure. Was he right there in 3 or 4 of them? Absolutely. Would you take that rather than being 5-win Michigan? Yes. It's important to know where you came from before you can know where you're going. And with where Michigan was at and where they're at now and how they're competing on those stages, you would absolutely take it. 1-5 is not great. Jim's going to hear that. They'll have a great chance to change that this season. Although, I will tell you, Michigan State and Ohio State are very good football teams. So they better buckle up their chin straps and come to play on those weeks.
Now, last question for you. When you, fill in the blank here.
Okay.
Michigan wins, the Big Ten goes to the college football playoff. If
Shea stays healthy and the defense plays to their potential. Those 2 things happen. You got a really potent combination in Ann Arbor. Still might be difficult, but you get a healthy quarterback, plays to his potential, they're going to be tough to beat.
Awesome. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, you bet. Have a good one, all right?
You too.